Hey everybody. Um, just getting ready to go to Oshkosh in a couple days. So haven't been doing much, but decided to get some work done on a recently acquired project here. And what we are looking at are the wing panels for a Byron Originals Kristen Husky. Talk about a rare plane. Just in general, as far as RC models go, you don't see too many Huskies, and you really don't see too many Byron Huskies anymore. When I was a kid, I saw them all the time, and always thought they were a cool airplane. It was Kristen Industries' version of the Super Cub, with a few little twists, few changes. Anyway, enough history lessons. So this was given to me by my buddy Sean up at Cards RC Club, and yeah, believe it or not, he gave it to me. That's freaking awesome. Um, it was somewhat in flyable condition when I got it. In other words, I could have put an engine in it and flown it, but you know, the aileron servos are old. Let's see if it'll actually focus on there. I doubt it. Almost. But anyways, they're Futaba S130s. This was built back in the 90s, early 90s. So, yeah, not the greatest radio equipment. But the flap servos are actually 90, were they 9201s? So they're not bad. Um, so when I got it, it was covered with fabric. As you can see, it has the traditional Byron foam wings, but of course it's partially sheeted and cap stripped to simulate a built-up structure. That was kind of Byron's thing, their injection molded foam. But it was covered with this right here. This is a full-scale type fabric, which, just like the full-size aircraft, over time it gets brittle. You can hear the paint cracking on there. And this is very, very heavy. So I yanked all that off of there, which was a real chore. And I'm going to recover the wings in monocoat, just because I want to keep the weight down. Wingtips are fiberglass. They just slide onto the end. They need to be re-glued on, obviously. And so far with the restoration, all I've really done thus far is I repainted the flaps. And watch this. These are beautiful. Look at that. Such a beautiful flap setup. Awesome. I was experimenting with some different paints on the flaps and had just a hell of a time. So I went back to the trusty old Rust-Oleum 2X, and it turned out quite well. Just as we all know, the Rust-Oleum 2X is not exactly the same color white as monocoat, but that's all right. When I restore a plane like this, I only do it if I have to. And for this one, the fabric and the finish was so beyond repair. It was still a flyable airplane. It just wouldn't have looked good. So when I do a restoration like this, I don't want it to look pretty and pristine like I just built it brand new. It still has to have somewhat of that look of a 30-year-old airplane. So like on the flaps, it's kind of hard to see through the phone, but there's some imperfections. There's some dings on the trailing edge that I left, because I still want it to look like an old airplane. That's important to me. I want to keep the some of the originality there. One of the other main changes I had to make was the way the ailerons are hinged. You could probably see it on this wing a little bit better. It's got, I forget what they call this hinge. Where the leading edge of the aileron actually is recessed into the trailing edge of the wing. And the pivot point is kind of like literally like your knee joint. So it fits into, let me get this so I can actually move it around here. So it kind of moves inside that pocket, which is all fine and dandy. But the way it was done you might be able to see in there, my hinge points are actually in these little grooves, so I can put the hinges further into the leading edge of the aileron, so it has more of, so the pivot point makes more of a knuckle, where before they were hinged right at the very edge, and with that kind of hinge joint, you can't do that. So it only had literally like that much deflection. That's all I could get out of it. So I took the ailerons off, and like I said, I cut these grooves into the leading edge of the ailerons, so the hinge is further recessed inside to give it the right pivot point. And I redid the roundness of the trailing edge of the wing here by just using various round things with sandpaper on them. And because these hinge into the foam, when I pulled them out, it kind of massacred the foam quite a bit. So what I did is I epoxied carbon fiber tubes into the foam, and these tubes are the perfect inner diameter for a Robart hinge. So now I have a nice solid tube to hinge the ailerons into, which just, the only reason I did it this way is because it's going to make actually hinging the ailerons a lot easier. So got that all taken care of. That worked out well. The flaps still have the original fabric on them. It was, getting the fabric off of this surface here wasn't too bad. Getting the covering off these ailerons, holy mackerel, what a chore. Because it's, the covering is applied with like butyrate and nitrate dope, so it seeps through the covering into the wood. So the downside is I'm not going to be able to get these extremely smooth because a lot of that dope is still, on the wood. But here's the plus side. Because it's going to be slightly, I wouldn't call it textured, but because it's not exactly smooth, once I cover these with a monocoat, it's going to have kind of that look like it's got fabric on it because it's not, silky smooth. And because this is still saturated with dope, that is going to react with the adhesive from the monocoat, and that is literally going to, well, holy crap, that would have sucked. It is literally going to glue the monocoat to these things. So that's going to be a plus, is the covering will adhere very well. I'm just going to have to do some minor sanding and finishing. I had to re-glue all the cap strips because when I pulled the covering off, it started yanking these off with them. So these are all re-glued. Some of them have been replaced just because they weren't too good. But now you can see, back to what I was talking about. Excuse me. Now I have plenty of deflection. So that's going to work out much better. So I got that all taken care of. That everything there looks good. Like I said, as long as these servos work, I'm going to keep them in there. But I haven't tested them yet. If I need to take them out, it's no big deal. As you can see, for attaching the wings to the fuselage, it's got the traditional Byron blade system. Some call them blades, some call them keys. You can call them whatever you want. I call them blades because it looks like a blade sticking out of there. So a blade with a set screw on the trailing edge and a bolt that goes through the center section of the wing into the center section of the fuselage into the wing. And the struts, which are sitting over there, are 100% functional. These wings will stay on the airplane without the struts, but they would eventually probably pull the fuselage apart. So very functional. I will be doing, of course, a lot of aerobatics with this airplane, but because I know how to do aerobatics the right way, everything should be good to go. And giving everything a good once-over, for the age of the airplane, all the adhesive is holding up very well, especially in the foam. Where all the mounts are for the struts, I am going to go around them with some fresh epoxy, just because. Call me a chicken, whatever you need, but I'm going to do that just because. Can't hurt, right? And the fuselage, I really haven't tore into it too much yet. Probably through my phone, you're probably thinking, why the heck do you got to restore that? It looks beautiful. Well, it doesn't. Just like the wings, the tail section is built up out of balsa and covered in fabric. Let's see if I can... Yeah, see, I just... you can literally see that circle where I just crunched the paint. And I'm not pushing that hard. So I'm going to strip all that off there. I'm going to monocoat all that. Once I get everything stripped, get the landing gear pulled off, I've already popped all the windows out. The windows were in bad shape, so I'm just going to make new windows. I'm going to go ahead and try polishing the fuselage. If I can get away with not painting it, that would be great. I mean, it does have some imperfections, which I'm totally fine with. Like I said, I like the fact that it has a little bit of personality, shows its age a little bit. But well, I don't know. We'll see. And it's got some, I'm assuming they're Futaba servos just because of the wires, but the labels are gone, so I don't know what servos they are. So those are coming out. This top piece here, it's been epoxied on as well as screws, but I kind of want that to be removable, I'd think. If anything, I can just paint, frames around everything to cover up all the glue that you see underneath. The only thing that I'm keeping on there is the main windscreen, because these do not exist anymore. I do not want to attempt to take it off, because if this breaks, I'm in big trouble. So we're going to leave that on there. Of course, I'm going to paint a nice frame around it. But yeah, all the glass is taken out. It does have a door on the other side, so you got good access to the inside of the plane. Overall, it's in not too bad condition, so the restoration isn't going to take too long. I think the only thing I have to do is I need to build up just this part of the center section, because when the wings are on there, they kind of sit back a little bit, like it's got a taper. And I'm trying to figure out if the full scale had a slight taper to the wing. I'm not sure. If anybody knows, let me know before I start making adjustments to the center section. All I have to do is literally put like a 1/16 shim from here to here, just to kind of step the trailing edge out a little bit. But, we'll cross that bridge when I get there. But for the most part, I can completely finish the wings right now. In fact, when I get back from Oshkosh, I'm going to cover the wings and get them completely ready to go. Because anything I have to do to the fuselage doesn't require the wings. I already know the wings fit to the fuselage just fine. If I have to make adjustments, I make them to the fuselage so I can get these done and out of the way. So, just kind of wanted to show you what's going on. I'm always excited when I have a new Byron project. And this one is kind of like the stagger wing to me. It's always been one of my favorites just because it's a unique airplane. I had the Glass Air a few years ago, and it was a cool airplane, but I don't know, as far as the Byrons go, probably one of my least favorites. It flew all right, but I don't miss it. It was cool to have. I can say I had one. Other than that, So as I get some more work done on it, I'll bring you back. Bummed about the white paint, though. Really bummed. This flap looks very good compared to the one I just painted this morning. Because the one I did this morning, I've already painted it twice. I've cleared it once, sanded all that off as good as I could, and painted it again with the Rust-Oleum. And it doesn't look too good. But, oh well. Matching white paint to a white iron-on covering is a pain in the ass. Ugh. Because the paint I put on the other flap yesterday looked good, but it was a base coat clear coat. So it was nice and bright. It was perfect. But as soon as I put the clear coat on it, the clear kind of yellowed the white a little bit. It changed the brightness of the white and just made it look awful. So I go back to the old trusty Rust-Oleum 2X, and it gives me a good finish. And I polished this this morning. As you can see, you can still tell it's covered in fabric. You know, it's got some imperfections. But I don't mind. That's fine. That is fine. So, I got some more prepping to do for Oshkosh. I may do some videos while I'm there. I doubt it, but you never know. It might be more of I might post some stuff on Facebook, but I'm not sure if I'm going to do any videos or not. But you never know. All right. Later.